Welcome back to the Global Business Report. Nigerian lawmakers have asked the government to consider increasing taxes on luxury goods to boost revenues. An expenditure plan approved by the Senate shows Nigeria is expected to generate $564 million from privatization proceeds this year. Budget deficit for 2019 is estimated at $6.1 billion, according to the plan. Lawmakers said the deficit will be covered via borrowing, privatization proceeds, and loans secured for specific projects. Meanwhile, First Aluminium Nigeria has explained its decision to delist from the Nigerian Stock Exchange, saying its shareholders were not benefiting from continued listing while its shares continue to trade at a significant discount to the intrinsic value. On these stories, Arise business analyst Chika Mbonu joins me in the studio. Chika, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine. Let's begin with the tax rise proposed by the Senate. Is this the only way of bridging the gap, of addressing shortages in income and revenue as well?
The tax or increasing tax or taxing luxury goods and services is an acceptable means of raising government revenues. The assumption is that this task is focused on the rich and mighty, and because it's focused on them, once it taxes them, it will not seep into the general population and impact the life of the general population or the poorer people.
Yes.
And that's the theory. But most often, as a case, the reverse is the case. The people that you tax, the rich that you tax, always find ways of passing on that tax to the poorer people, and which will lead to increase in prices in the overall economy and then in inflation. But be that as it may, are we tax efficient in Nigeria? No. Do we need to expand the tax net? Yes. Do we need to plug a lot of leakages in tax collection? Yes. So there's a lot more to be done. But the other issue about this taxing of the luxury and luxury goods and services is the same recycled people that have been submitted themselves to taxation that you are still taxing more. So you're still flogging the same people, whereas we need to expand the tax net. So yes, accepted that's one of the ways we raise revenues. Be that as it may, as you actually asked me, that's not the all. For Nigeria, for example, there are so many other things that we can do. There are so many leakages that exist. Even the same news talked about harnessing the full potentials of the Nigerian minerals industry. There are several reports that exist there that say that there's literally no mineral that you can't find in Nigeria. But because of the sweetness of the oil over these years, this is a sector that our country has not focused on. Indeed, there has been lack of structure and diligent, pursuit of this sector by the government. And I think we need to focus on this area to expand the revenue base of the government. This is very critical. It's one of the areas that will give us, a salvation, expanding revenue. The other thing also is waivers and granting waivers and exceptions at the ports. If each year they publish the reports, you find that the government loses so much revenue from these exceptions and waivers granted to several people.
Now, and these people are quite few. You can actually pinpoint them.
Yeah, and the issue again is the process, is it transparent?
Right.
Now, when the list is published, you should be able to justify it and understand what else the country is gaining from granting these waivers to these people. Is it that they're creating more employment, or are we recovering the tax in some other ways? And that's basically that. But a lot of times it's basically on base and then who knows who. Again, the other issue that was raised by the parliamentarians is the fact that custom people need to be more diligent at the oil terminals.
Yeah.
Make sure that there are no revenue leakages there. I remember I'm talking about that fact that there are so many leakages there. One other issue, the headline this week in Punch was that in the 3 months of this year, 20 million bags of rice have been smuggled into Nigeria. Now, you see, I have a problem in this area because the government people always try to change the narrative here. Because of the story, they want to push out there that the local rice production has been successful. Now, if you go to Benin Republic, we were told that when the rice report was published, import of rice in the world we're told that, yeah, whereas direct importation to Nigeria has decreased, that to Benin Republic has increased. And interestingly, the rice that Benin Republic is importing is not the one they eat. So where does rice go to? The rice gets more good into Nigeria. Yeah. So the custom people must understand that Nigeria is bleeding and raise the stakes in their work to limit this smuggling. You do remember that when we talked about Dangote refinery, sugar refinery the other day here, we talked about the fact that they're suffering also from the fact that the low price sugar is being brought into the market and is government losing a lot of money. Indeed. Can you imagine if Dangote sugar is operating and level is operating, it would have paid higher taxes to the government. Indeed. So smuggling is another major issue that's limiting, a major source of leakage for the government, losing revenues instead of taxing its people. Yeah. The other thing also is that at the end of the year, so many government enterprises are supposed to remit their surpluses to the government. Yeah. But we'll find out that this is not the case most times. They literally consume it. Indeed, I salute the current government in that respect, because in the previous years, all the parastatals are supposed to be contributing money to government. Yeah. Never. They declare deficit. JAM for the first time in the last 2 years has started remitting money to the federal government. That has to be pursued diligently. The parliamentarians are also suggesting that at 20% of it is supposed to be taken as source to supplement the revenues of the government. So it's not just taxation only. We believe that these leakages, if they're plugged, will help in shoring up the government revenue.
Very good, Chika. And just to a one-off thing, sometime in the past, I think international financial organizations have accused Nigeria of this multiplicity of taxes itself. You have maybe on one sector, you have like 2-3 taxes, and it discourages investment.
I agree with you, because
so what do you make of that?
It's very, you do recall some time ago, MTN was shut down in Kogi State, and they had to, and then so many base stations were shut in that respect, and services were lost, and they had, in the interest of the bigger picture, go and forced to pay that, despite their protests. So you'll find the local government is there collecting taxes, the state is there collecting taxes, and then the federal government is collecting taxes, and you will find some other taxes collected by other agencies. So you find a lot of companies are groaning under the burden of several taxes, and government has to look at that. All the chambers of commerce are protected on this, and again, it's one of the things the government needs to do to enhance the business environment for a lot of companies.
Indeed, and then you wonder itself, look, how much of this proceeds of these taxes actually going to basic provision of social infrastructure. Very good. Now, let's take a look at your view on the deficit of the taxes. Would you say it is too high?
Well, like I spoke the other day, I said, deficit financing is not wrong. I mean, you can, but the issue is deficit financing for what? Or why deficit financing and for what? Those are the issues, really. What do you use deficit financing? So, Nigeria deficit financing, as far as we have the earning power to cover it, that's no problem. Basically, it's like our expenditure is X, our revenue is Y, and our expenditure X is higher than Y, so we need to cover it.
All right.
That's deficit financing. And the deficit financing, how do you cover it? A lot of times it's from borrowing. Now, but so what do you do with it? That's the major issue. Now look at it this way. If it is the case that we diligently use the deficit financing to fund transformational projects, all right, like actually I was so impressed. I went to Kaduna some time ago, and actually rode in the train from Abuja to Kaduna, and I took the pictures and sent to my friends in abroad, and they were asking me, is this Nigeria really? Because the train service between Abuja and Kaduna was the same standard what happens every other place.
That's a newly inaugurated.
Inaugurated, yes. Yeah. Now, if you look at the terminals also, Abuja terminal that has been opened up, and then the one in Port Harcourt and the one that, those are salutary. Those are very important to the economy. If it's deficit financing for those specific projects, it's okay. Because the objective is that you borrow, finance, maybe the airlines who are paying fees in those airports will be paying fees enough for us to go back and pay back the loans collected. Okay. That. So those are the issues. So the issue is that. But when you see headlines in the last 2 days that says federal government spends 731 billion naira to subsidize inflated petroleum imports. Who? World Bank. Again, another headline, adopt reforms to enhance private sector performance. Who? IMF. Those are very saddening. So you find if the deficit financing is to do things like this for fund inflated petroleum imports is a problem. Look at it this way. How do we explain it? Nigeria in 2018 was said to have consumed 54 million liters of petroleum products. In 2017, a year ago, it was 40 million liters. So in 1 year, it increased by 40 million liters. What did you do? Did the car suddenly double? Did the factory suddenly whatever? So those are the points. So if the deficits are things like that, it's a problem for us. So I'm not going to say deficit financing is bad or too much. But look at the other issues I needed to consider. Servicing of our debts. The last two or 3 days ago, we talked about it that our total debt now is about 24.3 trillion.
Yes.
And that is a little high.
It is high.
For us, it's not the issue is not the debt to GDP ratio, which for us as a country is still very low compared to other sub-Saharan countries in Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa is low, below 20%. But the issue for us is debt service to our revenue ratio. Different ratios come up to you. In the current budget, if you add the sinking fund set up also, it comes to almost about 25%.
Yeah.
It's major. It's major. So with the revenues, how are we going to use to service the debt? A lot of the revenues are going to servicing debts. Then the debt service is also almost higher or comparable to capital expenditure. That's supposed to earn money for our country. So you ask yourself, where are we headed? So those are the issues. So it's not the issue of deficit. Yes, deficit financing is good, but the issue is what gave rise to it, and what are we doing with those deficits? And I hasten to say that this is our 2019 budget. There may be issues there because the assumptions there, the number of 2.3 million barrels a day. Now, OPEC is trying to manage supply. It's difficult to achieve that.
All right.
And those are the issues that confront us, especially with the 2019 budget and the deficit financing that we're pushing for.
Okay, so the realities on the ground might be in contrast to what we have in the budget as well. So it's a vicious cycle, as it were. Now, let's take a look at First Aluminium's plan to delist from the NSE. Does the company have a point in this direction it is taking?
First Aluminium is owned 75.4% by local holdings of SA and 24.5% Nigerian minority shareholders. If you look at the 5-year financials of the company, they have suffered. They've suffered over the last 5 years, difficult 5 years, and because of the difficult operating environment. That's applicable to a lot of companies we have talked about in this program. Increased competition, again, in its share of the market has been a problem. And most importantly, issues of exchange rate and high finance costs, to cover the depleted working capital they have. So because of that scenario, you will find that investors, shareholders, have not gotten the rewards, due to them. One, basically capital appreciation in the value of the company or the shares, and 2, dividends, regular dividend payments. So those have not been due to the company. So the 5-year financials show that the company has been struggling profitably. And if the shareholders don't have the dividends due to them, capital appreciation in the shares is a problem. So if I push it down a little more to just answer your question specifically, for the company, because of the situation the company faces now, it cannot raise. One of the reasons is go to stock market, or the stock being stock market quoted, is to enable it to be able to raise funds from the market cheaply. Because of the performance of the company over this period, it cannot do that.
It's been struggling.
It's been struggling. It can't raise money. Indeed, even in the Nigerian market for some time now, it's been difficult to raise money. Most money raised in the market has been due to rights issues. And then with this kind of shareholders who have not been rewarded dividend-wise, how will you raise more money from them? So for the company, one of the reasons to go into market is to raise money. And they cannot do that over this period. Yeah. The other reason is that as at now, First Aluminium is trying to rationalize the expenditure. Yeah. And the listing cost, the cost of listing fees, sanctions, penalties, are getting very high for them. All right. Commensurate to the benefit they would have gotten from listing. So you find that is another downside. Okay. The other thing also is a perception a perception. That's another reason why you go to the market. Now, for a lot of the competitors of First Aluminium are not quoted in stock market. So they say that if they leave the stock market, it will not affect the market perception and their place in the competitive market. Yeah. So for them, that is basically the major reasons, which are valid. Now, let's look at the shareholders now. As I said, no capital appreciation. For the last 6 years, the stock has stopped there at 50 kobo per share. Indeed, as of now, it's trading below its nominal share price, which is at 33 kobo. So again, no dividend payouts. Capital appreciation has been there. In the last 6 years, only about 3,000 shares have been sold daily. Now, the essence of going to the market also is to give liquidity to you and me, so that if you have First Aluminium shares and you're holding it, if you broke, want to pay your children's school fees, you should go to the market and be able to what? Sell it. But that does not exist for this company. Wow. So that benefit arising from the fact that you can equally go and sell your shares in the market are not. So for the company, they have lost the benefits of being listed. So it's just, for the shareholders, they have lost the benefits of being listed. You know, and that's basically why they want to opt out. And it's not strange. Remember, the market is free entry and free exit.
Yeah, it should be more dynamic, as it were. Now, in view of this scenario, what can exchange regulators do to make the NSE more attractive?
You know, I mean, one of the things is they can't do anything about the macro environment, really, because a lot of companies have been struggling. Indeed, if you go to the site of NSE and what they call corporate disclosures column, you find a lot of companies there are telling you, oh, we're not in a position to publish a result now. I mean, the sections are becoming many because of the environment that we operate in. So the macro, they can't do much about. But what they may look at is when companies are in distress like this, because you're trying to promote the general environment for people to come participate more in the stock market. When companies get delisted, it reduces the amount of shares available in the market, and it discourages shareholders or investors or Nigerian investors from participating more in the market. So you must find ways of listening to companies like this, accommodating their challenges, and find ways, you know, to remedy them. For example, the listing fees they have now, they're complaining about, the sanctions and so on. Are there extenuating circumstances that can make them be deferred or waived for them to enable them, you know, so they can remain in the market?
Very good. We'll have to stop there. Chika Bono, many thanks for your thoughts on those issues. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Hey, watch the Global Business Report here on Arise News. Up next, International Monetary Fund revises Nigeria's GDP forecast marginally upwards. Stay with us for details.